And welcome to the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan Silva. On today's episode of the Jazz Update, it's all about Wayne Shorter, one of the greatest tenor saxophonists in jazz. He was a 12-time Grammy Award winner, and New York Times called him probably jazz's greatest living small group composer and a contender for greatest living improviser. He rose to fame as a member of Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers. In 1960, he joined Miles Davis Quintet. He toured and recorded several albums over that time, formed a jazz fusion band called The Weather Report, and collaborated with other musicians from Carlos Santana to Johnny Mitchell to Herbie Hancock. He started out playing the saxophone at age 16. He also attained fame as a composer while he was with Miles Davis Band. Some of the notable tunes that he wrote for the band are classics today like Fall, ESP and Sanctuary. He also developed a unique playing style on the soprano saxophone that he'd become famous for in later years that combined technique and emotion. Many of his compositions are jazz classics today. He went on to win 12 Grammy Awards for his music. So that's a bit of insight into Wayne Shorter, his biography and best hits. Also coming up, some trending festival and album news. This is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan Silva. We'll be right back after some music. Stay tuned. And welcome back to the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan Silva. On this week's show, Wayne Shorter, his life and times and best hits. During this hour, we're going to be talking about his biography. Wayne Shorter was a prolific musician and composer who contributed to the development of jazz as a saxophonist and songwriter. He was the winner of 12 Grammy Awards. In 2015, he was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award. He started out playing the clarinet at a young age, then switched to saxophone. In 1956, he graduated with a degree in music from New York University. Shortly after that, he began playing alongside Horace Silver. He then joined Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers in 1959. He established himself as a leading saxophonist and composer of his time during his tenure with the Jazz Messengers. He also started performing and producing for VJ Records and Blue Note Records during his tenure with Art Blakey. In 1964, he left Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers and started touring alongside the Miles Davis Quintet. During his stay with Miles Davis, he produced more great compositions like Fall, ESP, Sanctuary and Paraphernalia. He also consolidated his playing style. It was a blend of technique and emotion. During his days with Davis, he also became fond of soprano saxophone playing. In 1971, he started out with his own band called The Weather Report. This band remained intact for 15 years and composed some leading names of his time, including former bandmates of the Miles Davis Quintet. So they were a very popular band. They became renowned for their performances and compositions. In 1977, they had a massive hit with their single Birdland, released on the album Heavy Weather. After the Weather Report disbanded, Shorter started out touring and performing alone. He'd also blend various cultural and ethnic influences in his music. He was also a massive inspiration to the post-1970 generation of musicians who came after him. In 2001, he formed another popular quartet. Their music was a blend of avant-garde and mainstream jazz. In 2018, he released his last album, Emanon. He died in March 2023, leaving behind a legacy as one of the most influential tenor saxophonists and composers who changed the face of jazz with his music. So that was a quick insight into the biography of Wayne Shorter, and you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan Silva. We'll be right back after some music. And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan Silva. On this week's show, it's all about Wayne Shorter, his biography and best hits. Now it's time to talk about some trending album news. Danilo Perez is a multiple Grammy Award-winning jazz pianist and composer. He and his jazz orchestra are about to release a new album called Lumen. This album consists mainly of compositions by the band. The themes range from playful to the nostalgic, featuring groovy Pan-American rhythms and free-flowing melodies and improvisations. According to Perez, this album marks a milestone in his career. The music symbolizes the power of music to bring various cultures together in a shared spirit of beauty and harmony. It's what Danilo calls a global jazz vision. It's a very joyful album. Across the Crystal Sea, a beautiful flugelhorn solo. Sunburn and Mosquito, a musical journey beyond the ordinary. So this album is set to be released on October 25th. There'll also be 2 singles from the album released on August and September prior to the album release. So that was some trending album news on the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan Silva. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about some of Wayne Shorter's best albums of all time. Stay tuned. And welcome back to the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan Silva. On this week's show, Wayne Shorter, his biography and best hits. During this hour, we're going to be talking about some of his best albums of all time. Here's a quick recap of the albums we're going to be talking about. The first one's called Introducing Wayne Shorter. It was released in 1960 on VJ Records. This one's Shorter's debut album. The Wayne Shorter compositions are the standout tracks here, very original ones that were very different from others of his time. Speak No Evil, released in 1964, was an album full of a diverse range of ideas and themes and innovations. The album consists of 6 original compositions by Wayne, and even though it was a very complicated compilation of tunes, he and his band pulled it off in style. The moods in the tracks vary from bouncy songs like Witch Hunt to haunting ones like Dance Cadaverous to the melancholy Infantiles. Juju was released in 1965. This album was inspired by John Coltrane. Many of his themes appear in the instrumentals and the compositions. The album contrasts moody, nostalgic tracks with upbeat, peppy ones. And Allegria, released on Verve Records in 2003. This was his first acoustic studio album in over 35 years, featuring a diverse range of songs taken from various stages in his career. Allegria, by the way, is a Spanish phrase that means joy or happiness. So that was a quick recap of what we are going to be discussing on this hour, and you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashani Silva. We'll be right back after some music. Stay tuned. And welcome back to the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashani Silva. On this week's show, Wayne Shorter, his biography and best hits. During this hour, we're going to be talking about some of his best albums of all time. The first album is called Introducing Wayne Shorter, released in 1960. It was released on VJ Records. This one's Shorter's debut album. There's a collaboration by Wayne Shorter and his soon-to-be Jazz Messengers bandmate Lee Morgan here. There's 5 sparkling Wayne Shorter original songs here. Also a beautiful rendition of Mac the Knife, a jazz classic. Also on this album, John Coltrane's influences on Shorter's music comes across. The Wayne Shorter compositions are the standout tracks here, very original ones that were very different from others of his time. The next album is called Speak No Evil, released in 1964. When this album was made, Shorter was already at his peak. He recorded this album during his days with Miles Davis. Primarily, it was because of his compositional skills that he reached the pinnacle. And this album, Speak No Evil, is a testimonial to that prowess. It's full of a diverse range of ideas and themes and innovations. It's almost like an album full of his own ideas. And those innovations are still timeless today. Speak No Evil is full of atmospheric, moody and innovative tracks. There's great improvisations, amazing instrumental playing and swinging blues. Also, the band is top-notch. There was Ron Carter on bass, Elvin Jones on drums, Herbie Hancock on piano and Freddie Hubbard on trumpet. An amazing collaboration album and one that brings out the best in Wayne Shorter's compositional skills. The album consists of 6 original compositions by Wayne, and even though it was a very intricate compilation of tunes, he and his band pulled it off in style. One of the standout tracks from this album, a beautiful ballad called Infantiles, which also went down as one of Wayne's greatest compositions to date. Overall, a hard bop themed album that treads the line between the conventional and the unconventional. For innovation, it's mainly very complicated melodies that are not quite conventional, mainly inspired by innovative classical compositions of the 20th century. And these melodies are covered with unique scales and intervals which completes the magic touch. Freddie Hubbard's trumpet playing and Shorter's saxophone playing adds to that magic. Also, very emotional music. The moods in the track vary from bouncy songs like Witch Hunt to haunting ones like Dance Cadaverous to the melancholy Infantiles. Juju was released in 1965. This album was inspired by John Coltrane. Many of his themes appear in the instrumentals and the compositions. The title track of the album, Juju, is one of the best tracks. A very experimental sort of song with a bop theme. The song is full of innovative saxophone playing that expands on conventions. This album was his 5th recording and saw him collaborating with jazz greats who performed alongside the likes of Coltrane, from McCoy Tyner to Elvin Jones to Reggie Workman. Tyner's piano playing is especially good on this album. Another standout feature on the album, the songwriting, very creative and allows for great innovation. Allegria was released on Verve Records in 2003. So in 2000, Wayne formed a new quartet featuring some top-class talent like pianist Danilo Perez, bassist John Patitucci, and Brian Blade on drums. So this album was his first acoustic studio album in over 30 years, a very elegant affair with woodwind, bass and string instrumentals. There's both original compositions and classics like Orbits, Capricorn 2 and Villa Lobos. So this album features a diverse range of songs taken from various stages in Wayne Shorter's career. Alegria is a Spanish phrase that means joy or happiness. Many of the tracks have Spanish names like Vendiendo Alegria, which means selling happiness, and that's typical of the theme that runs through the tracks in the CD of Love for Sale. So this was his first return to acoustic jazz since his Grammy-nominated album Footprints, and on this album we see Wayne experimenting with classical music and more obscure pieces. So that was a quick glimpse into some of Wayne Shorter's best albums of all time, and you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashani Silva. We'll be right back after some music. Here's Wayne. And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashani Silva. On this week's show, it's all about Wayne Shorter, his biography and best hits. Now it's time to talk about some trending concert news. Pianist Kenny Barron's making his debut performance at the Smoke Jazz Club. The performance is taking place August 22nd to 25th. So Kenny is a legendary pianist, and joining him on the performance will be bassist Peter Washington and drummer Savannah Harris. Kenny Barron's been called one of the leading pianists in the world. His style is elegant, infectious and sensitive. He started out playing the piano in Philadelphia, went on to tour with jazz legends like Lee Morgan, James Moody, Dizzy Gillespie and more. Also, the Smoke Jazz Club is one of New York's leading jazz haunts. The club has seen performance by everybody from jazz legends to rising stars. Also, this club is famous for its candlelit interior, acoustics and even the cuisine. For tickets to the Kenny Barron event, please visit www.smokejazz.com. So that was some trending album news on the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about some of Wayne Shorter's best albums of all time. Stay tuned.